Hi, ladies. Welcome back. I want to share today how a brief analysis of our generation gave me clarity on developing the foundation for achieving more. As our mindset continues to shift towards self-care as opposed to sick care, we can only perceive everything great that we are to achieve starts from within. Stay with me, ladies. This is episode 2. Let's go.
You're listening to Designing Midlife, a podcast about today's midlife woman. Ladies, we're more youthful, active, and demanding than any midlife generation before. Join Taj as she dispels the notion of crisis, learn to conquer in all facets from health to career, and design the midlife of your dreams.
So over the past couple of weeks, I've been sharing the inaugural episode with a few of my girls, just to get their feedback. They all knew it was coming. They've been my cheerleaders since I talked about the idea. One particular best friend, my girl out of Atlanta, Simone, my bestie from college, she listened and she called me. Brief background on Simone. She's probably one of the hardest working corporate execs that I know. Her work ethic is killer. And she's also this badass HR expert. So she works with small businesses to help them develop their, recruitment strategy, and then also how to manage, their workforce that are at different generational levels. So when she heard my episode, she called me to discuss or have this conversation about, this idea of midlife and where we were in our journey as opposed to, some research material that she was studying comparing us to baby boomers, which were, the generation before us, and then millennials, which is the generation after us. And, we are Generation X, in case you didn't know. I don't even know if I knew, to be honest. I've heard Generation X, but, for whatever reason, it's not something you think about. You don't hear about it. When you hear the discussion on generations in mainstream media, you're either hearing baby boomers or millennials. When do you ever hear Generation X? So as the conversation, went on and, we're comparing all three generations, it was really an eye-opener for me. And I started to Google because I wasn't sure what was the birth range for Generation X. Where did we fall, on the timeline? According to Wikipedia, it says Generation X is anyone born between 1961 and 1981. And then there are some websites that had a slight variation. So I started to think about other family members that, fell within this time period and, how do they compare to where I was at versus them in terms of what they wanted to do or didn't want to do. And it was intriguing because you kind of see that you have on one end the boomers, which probably the youngest are close to retirement. That's our parents' generation. And generally speaking, you have this responsible group of working people, hardworking people, traditional roles in the home, where the big picture life goal is to settle down and get married. And, the wife takes care of the house and the family and, the husband gets a good job, if lucky, great job. And, he's pretty much there to retirement. And if all works out well, he has a pension and so forth. And generally speaking, that's kind of like the breakdown of the baby boomers. So then we have on the flip side of us, the break the mold millennials who are in no rush to get married or have kids. They discovered they have passions to explore and hold no allegiance to the notion of a 9-to-5 and what a lot of us perceive to be this quote unquote safe and responsible path in life, right? But, they're also the generation that is most likely to be living at home much longer. And if they are with a company, they have no regard to this notion of a boss, right? They more so are looking for a coach to inspire them. And, they put a higher value on finding meaning and purpose over compensation. But I'm here to say, the more and more Simone and I talked, we were like, well, wait a minute. our generation, Generation X, we're the most interesting group of all, right? Because the more we talked about it, we're like this happy balance that, carries a lot of the characteristics of both. At one end, we hold a very strong regard for traditional roles with family structure and, things like that. But then we also have this expectation for more, right? We also have dreams and passions. And then we also want more. We know that we're made for more. And when we think about all of that and we put into play our lives, whatever that consists of, marriage or not, or kids or not, or, aging parents or not, whatever the complexities of all of our lives, we juggle so much and to achieve both ends of it, right? And a lot of it are successful at doing that. I found it very, very interesting. So I started to research some more, even after, we had a conversation for about an hour. We went a lot more deeper into, the kinds of lives our kids have versus how we were brought up and, the expectations we put on them and what their own outlooks were and things like that. But when I started to do a little bit more research to kind of understand Generation X, us, a little bit better, I was even more mind blown. Ladies, we are the first generation of women who have outpaced men in college completion. Did you know that? While the boomer generation showed the first surge of women pursuing to enter the workforce, Gen X, by far, us, we dominated by far. The percentage point gap was just kind of just spiked off the charts. And then surprisingly, the millennials were a very small margin ahead of us. And I find it so intriguing that it only took one generation later, our generation, to dominate and outpace men in this area. Now, when you put that in a context of time, progress, and all the generations before, right? I think it's pretty wow. So I go through all this research and I start to bring it home, right? I start to think about myself, my circle, who I engage with regularly. And here's the thing, something else lingers out there, common thread throughout, from strangers to family to friends to colleagues. I teach a design course, a design certification course a couple times a year. And I tell my friends this all the time because I find, this statistic every semester to be very, very true. Every class I have, 50% of the class is mid-career changers. All women, we talk or develop, I want to say friendships, but they're more like mentor-mentee relationships. And the resounding theme for all of them, because I'm there, right? I want to serve as a mentor. I want to help them navigate. The resounding theme for every single last one, 100%. When I ask, what brought you to this course at this stage in your life? And their careers just run the gamut. And they all 100% say, it's my time now. I want more. Not exactly the same words, but that is the resounding theme. Throughout our lives up to this phase, we have made so many sacrifices as women, right? And we're still making them. A lot of us are balancing aging parents, kids at different stages, a relationship, marriage or otherwise. We have our work. We have bills to pay, other responsibilities. But we've reached a stage where we know deep down inside, this is not it. We know we are made for more. Love that phrase, made for more. I'm claiming that hashtag for this episode, hashtag made for more. But how do I know that we're made for more? Well, from my discussion with Simone and the more that I read in my research, and this is just for us ladies, nothing against men, I'm just talking to us ladies. What generation of women, other than us, who is more equipped to balance everything that I just mentioned? Our generation has the most women who have entered the workforce. The baby boomers and before didn't have as much opportunity, right, as women. Not that they didn't want to or had dreams to or desired to, but the opportunity for that time was not there. And then the millennials, they're just simply different, right? The outlook on life is just different. There's no criticism, they're just different. But I want to carry this made for more a little deeper and offer a more personal perspective because In my first episode, I mentioned I was on bed rest in recovery from a procedure. And when I think about the Made for More and our expectations and all of these ladies that I've met over the past 3 years in my design courses, and when I talk to my friends, and this common thread of, I don't know if unfulfillment is the word to call it, or I guess the more accurate thing to say is the expectation for more is just not going away, right? And I think a big part of that too has to be related to what I feel, or what I always say in regards to us, is that we're the most youthful midlife generation, right? And I feel that has a lot to do with technology, and we're just exposed to a lot more with social media. We see every part of the world every second of the day, and there's a lot more expectation out of life of what's to come next in life, because why not, right? Why not? But when I was going through this recovery period that I promised to share with you, a lot of things just kind of came to mind. Probably over the last 2 years, I have been kind of on a roller coaster with trips to various doctors for what I call bizarre diagnoses, of things that were just as random things that I've been very determined to overcome. And it's been throughout this process that I had to kind of backtrack to learn I had to overcome in order to achieve more. And that may sound a little confusing, but I'm going to continue to explain. You see, my Made for More centered around my health and my well-being. I'm your average height, weight, occasionally have a cocktail, don't smoke or anything else. Pretty health conscious person. So when I started to go through these various doctor's visits these past couple of years, and I became so extremely confused, because the very first thing I remember, I had a annual physical, I think it was probably the first thing, the annual physical a couple of years ago. And I was told from my blood work, just a regular annual blood work, that my liver enzyme levels were high. I was like, what is that? When you hear anything related to your liver, you automatically think it relates to drinking or something like that. I don't drink hardly ever. So I was like, what do you mean my liver enzymes are high? It was very confusing. Follow up a few months after that, I started to have regular episodes of heart palpitations. Very, very scary. So scary. One episode found the paramedics at my house 4:00 in the morning. Probably the scariest episode was I was driving in rush hour traffic, and I was at a red light, and I couldn't breathe, and I had to pull over, call my husband, and I ended up in the ER probably an hour later. It all turned out fine, and I'll tell you what that's all about in a few minutes. But then I did a recheck of my blood work a couple of months after that, and that turned up to be high cholesterol. Now, mind you, with the anxiety of all these random things popping up, and with a very heavy workload, I've always had a heavy workload, always, ever since I started working. So that was the norm for me. So I didn't even think about the fact that I always had a heavy workload. That wasn't a consideration for me. But I did feel that I was becoming very, very anxious of all of these different variety of things popping up with my doctors. And then I started to notice weight gain. I am a stress eater. That is one thing that I do. So I wasn't surprised with the weight gain. But then to counteract the weight gain, I went on my tried and true low carb diet. It's worked for me for years, past 20 years at least. Whenever I had a few pounds to drop, I'll do a quick low carb diet for a few weeks. And it wasn't working. First time ever. It just wasn't working. The pounds weren't coming off. I was working out. I was hardly eating any carbs, and it wasn't working. And I'm not finished. I'm sure I'm forgetting a couple of things. Oh, so this leads me to my visit to my OBGYN. Go to just another annual checkup with my OBGYN. And that resulted in my doctor telling me she had to schedule a ultrasound because the fibroids I had from I was pregnant 13 years ago that had always been very, very small are now growing. And she needed to see what was going on. We needed to do an ultrasound. And I'm sure I'm leaving a couple of things out, but that's enough, right? That's enough. I say all of this to really say The balancing power I touted earlier that I feel our generation is so skilled at. Well, I was balancing everything external, but nothing internal, right? I was managing life. I felt like I was a master at that. I still believe I'm like this master multitasker. I felt that I was just juggling everything so perfectly, but I was not managing my health. Had I been taking my good health for granted all these years? Well, yeah, sure, right? And I think we all do that, right? You know, it goes back to the statement I made in my opening comment. We're so conditioned on this idea of sick care, but not self-care. And I think society on a whole is changing. We're shifting. I really, really do. I told myself, I said, Taj, I said, if you feel that you're truly made for more and you have all these plans, you still have all these dreams and you want to do all of these things, then because of all these changes that you're going through, that your body is going through, your mind is going through, because of all that just comes with being in this phase of life, this midlife phase, because of all these things that are inevitable to come, whatever that is, and whatever changes that come, you have to learn then to pivot, but you also have to learn to balance yourself first, right? That's self-care. We have to put us first. As midlife women, we are juggling so much. We're wanting more, and for whatever reason, we don't know how to go about that wanting more, right? For my personal discovery, I have to tell you that I believe that journey starts within. And I'll share with you what that looks like for me. You see, I didn't need that beauty regimen, right? I didn't need this. We hear everything about the anti-aging creams and the wrinkle prevention and, you know, everything that goes related to that. Everything, we're so driven by beauty, beauty, beauty. And I didn't need that. That's not what I need. I don't need a beauty regimen. I needed a wellness regimen. How often do we hear that? As we mature, our bodies manifest everything entirely differently, and we have to make those adjustments. Our methods have to change. And so I'm going to tell you quickly, for my cholesterol, I refuse to accept simply that it was hereditary and inevitable, as my gastro specialist told me, as he wrote my prescription for statins. I was not going to start taking statins, and that's just my personal decision. So I started to, again, research, and I went really strict on my diet. I was never a fan of oatmeal. That's probably the first thing on every food list for high cholesterol. But now, very happily, I went through tons of different brands of oatmeal. I found the one that I love. And now every single morning, I have oatmeal with either flaxseed or chia seeds and berries and all that good stuff. And I have my 1 cup of coffee in the morning, and that's it. I also eliminated red meat entirely. But I had to make really hard adjustments to my diet. But I'm happy I did it because my cholesterol is right back to normal, and it's been that way for months now. I'm not a doctor, but as explained to me by doctors, as we enter this phase of life, our organs just don't process as efficiently as when we were younger. So ladies, our made for more, I believe our made for more has to start with our health. To be all we want to be and to still be able to achieve or go after the plans that we have today. They don't have to be old dreams and old plans, but even new plans, those new goals that we have set for ourselves. And, we have to prioritize us. What else is a part of my wellness regimen? Well, 2 things new to me that I never did before, in addition to the oatmeal, is I now practice yoga, and not as consistently, but I started meditation. Yoga came about as a result of the heart palpitations. After the visit to the doctor and then a cardiologist and the ER room, everyone cleared me cardiac for everything cardiac related. There was nothing wrong with my heart. So then my doctor said, Taj, it's stress related. What is going on in the mind? And we had that discussion. I didn't even consider it. I did not for once consider, not for one time consider that my heart palpitations could be related to stress. Not once. I didn't feel it. I didn't feel like I was stressed. That's why they call it the silent killer. So then I had to decide how to treat it. And I chose to try yoga, and a couple of different friends at different times referred the Headspace meditation app to me, which is a very cool app. I love it actually. And I hate that I have not developed the consistency with meditation because I think it's great. The benefits were very obvious to me, but I've truly fallen in love with yoga. But I didn't run to a yoga class, and I started riding my home, looking into kind of like just really checking out because there's different types of yoga, right? And I didn't know where to start as a beginner. So as I was looking around and talking to people, and I looked up restorative yoga videos on YouTube. So I just went in my den, went on the carpet in front of my TV, pulled up restorative yoga on YouTube, and I started to do on average 15-minute videos every night before I showered. And to do that at the end of the day, 15, 20 minutes, it was so relaxing. I was sleeping better. And then I didn't go on social media after that. I didn't go on any kind of device, laptop. I didn't do any work, anything after that. I ended the evening with the restorative yoga, showered, and went to bed. Hung with the family, whatever it was, and went to bed. And so after I did that for a little while, I looked for a local studio that wasn't too far from my home. I found a great one less than 10 minutes from home, and I go there regularly. And that's been great. It's all been great. I supplement my fitness with my treadmill in my home. So I'll do my treadmill as well. So in addition to the diet changes, I am now consistently doing yoga and the treadmill, and working on becoming more consistent with meditation. I can't lie about that. My liver enzymes are back to normal. I'm really relieved to say that, but the doctors don't know why. They don't know why it goes up, and we don't really know why it goes down. So I can only say that I'm monitoring that right now, and I'm always looking for what to eat or not eat to support healthy liver function. And I can't explain it. They can't explain it. I can't explain it. Milk thistle is a herb that is touted all over the internet. That's really popular to support a healthy liver function. And I do have milk thistle supplements that I take, but I'm not saying that's what dropped my levels back to normal, because I started taking them after they went back normal just to support my liver. But they can't explain why. So I think that's so wild, right? And initially I was extremely worried about it because it's something that you don't hear normally. It's not common. And I'm like, what does that mean? And, everything related to the liver that could be of serious concern, they tested me for it, and thankfully nothing came back positive. So I don't know, it's a weird phenomenon. But when I was looking for the milk thistle, quick story, when I was looking for the milk thistle in Whole Foods many months back, and the lady in the supplement section, she's like, that's happened to me. That happens to people. Sometimes it just kind of goes up and down. That's what she said. I don't know. But so I just kind of took her feedback to be like, okay, then it does happen to people, and I'll just continue to monitor it. This is why I was in recovery. I recently did what is called the UFE procedure, uterine fibroids embolization. I went to Dr. Linda Hughes here in South Florida, and putting her name out there because I felt I like her a lot, and I like her staff of nurses a lot. And she was really hard to find. It was really hard for me to find someone locally that had the experience in this procedure that I could feel comfortable with and trust to pursue this procedure with. So I want to put her name out there and tell her thank you. And maybe I'll just have an episode on this procedure and bring her on as a guest, because I know there's so many women at this phase of life that are struggling with this issue. But my gynecologist initially wanted to, the only option she gave me for what I was battling with my fibroids was to do a hysterectomy. And for us women that are familiar with hysterectomies, we know it's a major surgery. It's a roughly 6 to 8 week recovery time in bed. But I learned of the UFE procedure from one of my high school besties, Cynthia. She was visiting us us here in South Florida, and we got together, and I was just sharing with her what I'd been going through. And she told me that she had it as well, and that she did this procedure, with her doctor in Atlanta. And, for me, the complications I was having with my fibroids is, they were on the outside of the uterus. So they were pushing forward, and there was this bulge in my lower abdomen, and they were rock hard. So as a result of where they were positioned, I had 4 of them. They were pressed on my bladder, which caused I was running to the ladies' room every 15 minutes. And because of the hardness and where they were positioned, I was living in leggings and jogger pants. Like I couldn't wear a pair of jeans comfortably or anything fitted comfortably because of the pressure on my abdomen. And it became really, really stressful just dealing with how it was affecting my life. So I had to do something about it. If you have fibroids and you have no symptoms, there are women like that, then the doctor would tell you, you don't have to do anything. The phenomenon to it is once we hit menopause, they start to shrink on their own. And again, there's no explanation for it. Hormone levels is the best that they can relate to it. But for whatever reason, once a woman goes into menopause, they shrink. But there are a lot of us that develop, really, for putting it mildly, inconvenient symptoms related to the fibroids. And this is so important. Why? This is the importance of community and support, right? Because if I didn't share that story with Cynthia, I wouldn't have gotten that feedback. My doctor did not give me or tell me about the procedure. But when I went back to my doctor and told her I learned of this procedure from a girlfriend, she was very well aware of it, but she never had mentioned it to me. This procedure had a 1 to 2 week recovery time, no incision, very minimally invasive. And within the first week post-procedure, I had the relief off of my bladder. The fibroids went from hard to soft, and which relieved the pressure on my bladder. So I wasn't running to the bathroom to pee every few minutes. And to explain it quickly, it cuts off the blood supply to the fibroids, which allows them to get soft. But also the second benefit is it allows them to shrink. But the shrinking process is very slow. That takes months, but I'm already seeing positive results. So all of that led me or gave me no option to develop what I have now as my wellness regimen. I know all of our journeys differ. I also know that so many of us put our well-being and our wellness last on the list. It's amazing. We find the energy to nurture everything else around us first, and we leave zero to very little energy to balance ourselves. And I'm guilty of it, and my body shut down for it. It literally said to me, I'm done. But I finally feel that I've turned the corner, right? I feel like I'm on the right track. I'm seeing positive gains, and that alone has given me so much energy to do more. And this podcast being one of them. There is so much that I want to share as a result of finding clarity on that journey. Because you see, there is so much more that I want to pursue. There are new dreams that I have at this phase in my life that I want to go after. And I think you may have some too. I'd like for you to think about what may be blocking your pursuit for more. Do you feel that you may need some balance from within? And that's a really deep question to answer. That just really takes some time and just really looking internally at what may be off. And think about it. Make a plan. And all I can say to you is go for it. Until next time, ladies, one love.